Hi,
Hi,
this is Tea with Sushmita. Here we talk with tea. Cheers.
cheers.
Today I'm talking to someone who wears many hats. He is the chairman of Amalgamated Plantations, formerly the Tata Tea, which is the second largest tea company in India. He's a very keen social entrepreneur. He has also been an advisor to the Chief Minister of Assam, and he's the chairman and director of Rajasthan Royals, the IPL team. Welcome to the Tea Talk, Mr. Thakur. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sushmita, for making the time for us. You know, tea is such a neglected subject. Nobody makes the time for tea anymore. So thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm sure that people will enjoy the talk. Get me straight to the question. Uh, you are into tea for last four generation, right? So, as a fourth generation tea person, if I call you a tea person, fourth generation, how do you see the Indian tea industry has fared so far, and in what direction do you think it should move ahead in future?
Meaning, it is meaning that answer could be 4 generations long, but I'll try and keep it short. I think my association with tea, I can't remember all the 4 generations, has been starting with my great grandfather, who used to be the head clerk of one of the largest and most consolidated tea companies called the Brahmaputra Tea Company. And then my grandfather, he didn't join tea directly, indirectly, he was in charge of, through his legal profession, a pleader of around a group of estates, around 9 or 10 uh, companies, which were Sterling companies, as they call them. Then my father joined the Sterling company in Assam, and he was the first Indian actually in a company called the Vikhari Tea Company. And then for me, it was absolutely accidental. I lived overseas, and then I came back to India, and I one day got a call from the chairman of Tata Tea then, Mr. Krishna Kumar, and then he talked about land value optimization. That how can we optimize land? We have so much land so that the people who live on the land can benefit. And really, we talked about a whole schematic of how do we diversify tea so that the commodity cycle is busted. And then as we worked on it from my consulting company, he felt that maybe I should join as a director. And then as chance happened, it asked me to become a chairman of the company. So I think that's really the linkage with tea. But I think after I joined tea, I think my own emotional bondage, I not only rationalized, but I suddenly felt that being from the Brahmaputra Valley, and I rationalized that there were 3 generations before me working directly or indirectly for tea. So why wouldn't I sort of try and understand what the requirements are? So where do we take it from here? Tea is wonderful. It's a fantastic subject. It's 2500 BC. It's really sexy because I'm saying it's meant for good health. Tea is a very affordable drink, and it is affordable by all classes. It's not sort of distinguished by unaffordability. Meaning there are different types of tea, and different types of tea, just like any commodity like rice or dal. And I'm talking about basic commodities which all human beings like or all human beings partake in. Find that actually tea is something which has a universality about it, where everybody can actually participate in tea. So the tea houses of China, the tea houses of Japan, actually which started the concept of tea, actually was very romantic. And the whole idea of actually socializing around tea was absolutely fantastic. Then you see this whole thing of camellia and how the Chinese did it started getting challenged, not because others started growing it, but because the market which they actually created in the UK was challenged because of the opium wars at that point in time. So the British then found out that they needed to have tea. So that's when the spread and conquest of the world started with tea, the piece of tea. And there was Captain Blues, and his brother, both from the Botanical Society. They had come up actually to Assam, and they were sent up to Assam. They'd come up to Assam to actually look for what is called Camellia sinensis. In this case, it was Camellia sinensis assamica.
Assamica, yes.
Yeah, Assamica, and they found it in the Singpho tribe, in meaning which were then undivided Assam, but towards the upper reaches of Nampong, towards the upper reaches of Dibrugarh and Tinsukia and that place, around there. So those people, when they sort of started finding out more about tea, and they sent the samples back to Calcutta, they found, wow, this is it. So that became the counter, just to cut it production, just to cut it short, they became the counter to the entire tea exports or imports from China. And that's when, in 1835, the first shipment, 1835 to 37, that date is often misused or quoted doubly, started going to be exported to the UK. And actually, tea became an export product. It was an export product all through. And therefore, it came under the Ministry of Commerce. And the Ministry of Commerce, because of foreign exchange, etc., was the right department for it. Anyway, since then, since 1835 to now, it's almost 200 years. It's about 15 years short of 200 years since that first tea was made. I think a lot has changed. At that point, to make tea also, you got a group of people who were from a diversified community from Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar. That lot of people were brought here. There were very few laborers of the local variety. And I mean local variety means of people who are either Assamese-speaking people or the local tribes that occupied Assam before even the caste Hindus, if I may call them, were imported by the Ahom kings. So the whole idea basically, therefore, was to see that a lot of people got employed. I don't think there was any bad trick in the mind of planters, but they took large tracts of land and they got workers, and they felt that they were giving employment, housing, and security, which I think was the beginning of the tea industry. And then that industry actually opened up and carried on, and then it moved to North Bengal. In fact, Assamica is even found in Darjeeling. Those were the first lots of tea, Darjeeling, and then it went to South India, then it went to Sri Lanka, Ceylon, then it went to Africa. I think bits and pieces from China and India also went to Indonesia, and later on, in later years, Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yeah.
Therefore, the growth of this Camellia sinensis and tea from China was absolutely phenomenal. Of course, there is tea in Turkey, there are teas in Iran, there are teas in Russia. So it's not as if that it was only a domain here as we feel. But tea drinking was never a subject of Assam. Tea drinking was never a subject of India.
Yeah, that it came much later, yes.
In 1916, they got as rations in the army, and those people who were recruited in India, that was one way of doing it. And the workers got tea as part of their compensation. So I think the tea drinking started at a much later date, almost forced because of employment. So that's the way the whole thing started unfolding. Now, this whole industry was regulated to the extent land was given to people who wanted to take land and buy land and develop land along with creating employment, and therefore various laws and regulations started coming. One of the most powerful regulations was the Plantation Labour Act, which actually got modified in 1951 or 52, and thereafter that Plantation Labour Act had a very big shadow in terms of power over the industry, of the regulated tea industry. So that's really the quick structure of what happened. It became Commerce Ministry, it became regulated by the PNA, and therefore everything happened. But in all industry types, the competitive forces take over. So while the tea garden were producing tea was not abundant, so there was always a cycle every 3 to 5 years. The cycle went up and down, which meant prices went up and down, and losses and profits were very much linked to that. So it was quite interesting to see that till the late 80s and early 90s, when there was a guy called Mr. Bora, so Nishwar Bora, if I remember. He said, but why can't we grow tea ourselves? And they started growing tea not as a local venture, which there were already local regulated tea ventures. So they grew tea and actually started supplying this commodity to the garden which had factories, and they made tea. So that enhanced the whole sort of spectrum. That tea today of the supplies of the green leaf that comes in and the regulated tea industry is roughly about 600 to 650 million. Roughly 52% of that tea is from the small grower. So industry forces and supply forces made them change it. So to make a ready-made cup of tea based on a kilo of tea based on small growers roughly costs you anywhere between 90 and 130. Roughly everybody talks about 150. But if you look at it, the tea that the regulated tea industry makes, there are two types, orthodox and CTC. The orthodox and CTC range again from 150 rupees in terms of making and delivery, right up to 250 rupees. In fact, the price recovery depends on the quality and the grade. There are 4-5 grades which they actually manage. And 250, I'm talking about great orthodox teas or great ones with great tips or great golden tips, etc., etc. So I think this regulated industry is really making teas which are much more expensive, and if you take out the labor and the energy component, it would probably still compare with the small growers. So the small growers who make 52% now of the tea industry have brought the end price of tea actually down. So if the Assam industry is roughly Assam, North Bengal and maybe Darjeeling 10,000 crores in value, Assam maybe 8,000 crores, I think that value of 50% or more in terms of volume is being brought down, and therefore the consumer price share of the small growers tea is actually more slated around 150, and the consumer price of the regulated tea industry is more slated around 180. So that's a big difference. So all the big buyers actually are people who are vying to buy the small tea growers tea, because by and large their quality is okay and they're getting better and they're not okay. Their productivity is much higher in the land. They get about 3,000 kilos a hectare compared to roughly 1,700 from the regulated. So that's another impediment to price. So I think it's really challenging, but it's not as industrial as I'm making it, because finally tea is a romantic way to make tea, which finally got mechanized. It's romantic to have tea with anybody, including yourself. So I think it's very important to understand the romance of tea should not disappear from actually the making tea.
Great.
Even though I don't believe it will, and even if regulated tea industry is under this great pressure, I think the unregulated or the small tea growers, because some evidence are regulated, will flourish. The regulated tea industry, if it doesn't work, I feel very sad, and my heart and emotion goes out to the workers, because the workers have actually given a lifetime and they've got what I call trapped in the assurance of house, assurance of rations, assurance of good living, versus actually leaving somewhere and venturing out for not having a job or having a job which is another job in another industry. So I think this is where they're stuck. So I think with the democratization of information on the cell phone, I think their children and their children will start looking elsewhere for bluer skies and better futures. So I think really there's a social dimension to tea which needs to be addressed, because while the small tea growers have created the greatest entrepreneurial revolution, I think, in India, and I think it is deserving of a management case study, whether it be on Indian management or Harvard, because they've created entrepreneurs from nowhere, without government help, without government loans, without government incentive. So they've created more than 150,000 workers who make 52% of the Assam teas at least, So it is quite a revolution. So now we need to revolutionize the regulated tea industry. What do we do with it is a matter up for debate. I have very strong views on something, and I actually have it based on a social and economic